Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community, and numerous people have linked me. Brian Shaw's video on his DEXA scan, including a friend of mine. He texted it to me the same day it came out, like in the morning. I got a text the other day, Jason, you got to check this out. So I went ahead and I watched it. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. What's funny to me is that the guy who texted it to me is someone who I have gone and gotten a DEXA scan with before. Like we've gone and got a DEXA scan the same day at the same place. And I thought this was interesting to me because I'm someone who does DEXA scans. I've done 3 of them. I published 3 of mine for you guys. I think that they're a valuable tool. They're a useful tool. And when you're taking someone like these World's Strongest Man competitors, I am interested to see this because I do want to know stuff about their health and health markers, because for me, I run a fitness channel. People are like, oh, Jason, because you're into powerlifting, you run just a powerlifting channel. No, not really. I care a hell of a lot about fitness and longevity. This is not just for that. This is about longevity and quality of life. And so I don't really follow the World's Strongest Man. You'll get people who are like, Jason, why don't you cover their sport a lot? It's like, because I think it's kind of bad for your health. It's not really my thing. I think there are longevity issues, and as much as I might appreciate it from an athletic perspective, I'm concerned for the health of these guys. So we can start getting real data on stuff like this. Like, I'd love to see Brian's other stuff. I'd love to see all his other stuff. What I thought was interesting, though, too, was his demeanor. You get him on camera, and you can kind of tell, when you can assess people sometimes, he's like a big teddy bear. Dude is just a gentle giant. That's how he strikes me. Like, you see that guy sitting there, and you know that he's over 400 pounds. You know it's a guy who can deadlift 1,000 pounds like it's nothing. He could crush you. And you see the guy sitting there, and you get that impression that he is probably one of the nicest, gentlest people in the world. I mean, I get that impression. I've never actually seen him speak before. I've never actually watched the guy on camera other than seeing some of his strongman competitions. This is my initial impression. It's like, he just strikes me as, that just seems like just a genuine, nice person, right? A big, gentle giant. Granted, you probably don't want to piss him off, but big, gentle giant, guy seems as nice as can be, which I think is pretty cool, because you do see a lot of these bodybuilders they come across as just total jackasses and total douchebags. But that tends to run the personalities of people who go into that sort of endeavor, usually narcissistic douchebags anyways. So, you see someone like that and this monstrous dude, and he's just so chill and gentle, and I thought that was pretty cool. That was a good first impression. What I also found hilarious was them trying to get him on the DEXA scan, because I've done 3 of these, and for me, even trying to get on the DEXA scan at 5'9", at 215, right? My last one, 5'9", 215. I can't even fit on the DEXA scan. Right? We have to pull my arm. It's really hard to get my arms, to get my elbows in and everything, because my back is wide enough. And so when I heard that he was getting a DEXA scan as someone who's done 3 of these, the first thing that popped in my head is, they struggled to get me fully under the machine. How are they taking this giant and putting him on the DEXA scan? And then if you guys watch the footage, it's kind of funny because, they can't fit him on there. Because I'm like, that's the first thing that went in my head as someone who's done several of these. Like, wait, are they doing him in sections? Because I don't even fully fit. I struggle to fit on the machine. And he is twice my size. Literally twice my size. Right? He weighs double what I weigh. He is almost a full foot taller than me. He's 6'8". He's 11 inches taller than me at double my body weight. How in the hell are they fitting him on here? And they couldn't. So that I had to extrapolate data. And I thought that was pretty funny. But what's interesting is that when you start looking at some of his body composition, and I really wish we had been able to see his visceral fat. Like, I didn't, if someone saw that and I missed it, he didn't give his visceral fat number. All right, when we're talking about the health of these athletes, that's something I really and truly want to see, because that's one of the things that I know from the DEXA scan place I go to and talking to the techs and building a rapport with them, is that one of the things they notice that a lot of their bodybuilders come in and they have a lot of visceral fat, even who are under 10% body fat. And that's one of the things they thought was interesting with mine, is even though my body fat was above 20%, I was under 20% now, well under at this point. But my first one, when I came in at over 20% body fat, They were surprised to see my visceral fat that low because I had them tell me, we have bodybuilders who come in here at Dexa at 7% body fat, right? Who have 3 times the visceral fat that you have, more fat around their organs. And I think a lot of that has to do with the drugs, right? The insulin, maybe the IGF-1. I think a lot of the drugs they're using, right? The drugs they're using are causing this. So when you see someone like Brian, who is obviously using a lot of stuff, you're going to have to compete in what he competes in. We don't necessarily know what he uses. I wouldn't even speculate. Guys will come in and say, Jason, what do you think he's using? Shit, what? You're going to have to ask Brian. I don't know what his stacks are going to be. I wouldn't even venture to guess. You know, who is over 20% body fat, I would kind of like to see that visceral fat. I want to know, you know, to go with all the other stuff, all the blood work, because that is, I think, a big concern when you see these guys like this. Their health is a real concern with what they do. And so that visceral fat can tell you a lot about what's going on with your health. That is more important than your subcutaneous fat. Like your body fat percentage isn't as important as knowing that visceral fat as far as your health and longevity and concerns about that. Things like insulin resistance, risk of diabetes, heart attacks, things like that. That visceral fat's important. And it's something you need to pay attention to. So I wish we had seen it. But what I thought was interesting, the guy is 22% body fat, 6'8", has well over 300 pounds of fat-free mass. 300 pounds of lean mass. You know, you get people who say stuff like, well, how come these guys aren't bigger than bodybuilders? They are. You guys know why bodybuilders look big? Because most of them are short. Obviously, they have a ton of muscle and they use a ton of drugs, but a lot of times their proportions are due to being shorter. Right? I've met pro bodybuilders. Hell, I'm taller than the average pro bodybuilder I've met, which is surprising. I mean, Kai Green's like... Dude's got to be like 5'5". I've met him in person. The dude is like down here. Like his head's like below like my chin line. And it's like, real dude's got to be a midget. But their proportions, the fact that they're really, really lean, and then they use a lot of site enhancement. And that's one of the things they'll say, well, how come some bodybuilders seem to have bigger arms than these strong men? It's because they're ripped and they're injecting tons of stuff into their arms. It may not be all muscle. Like you go DEXA scan that, you're going to be surprised what's in those arms. Right? There's less muscle in those arms than you think there is. You combine that with the way their insertions look. You combine that with the leanness. Right? There's a lot going on there. But I mean, truth be told, if you guys honestly think that Phil Heath has bigger arms then Brian Shaw, you're wrong. When people say, well, more muscle in it. Well, how many inches of that isn't muscle? Just because you see the muscle because you're seeing the lack of fat between the skin and the muscle because he's lean doesn't mean that what's inside that muscle is all muscle. Because I can assure you that guys with arms that big who are pro bodybuilders, I can assure you there's tons of site enhancement. So you got all this site enhancement in their delts, their biceps, triceps, a lot of times their calves. And they're really lean, and then you're thinking, well, they must look bigger than these guys. Well, no, it's that Brian Shaw's at 22% body fat and doesn't probably inject stuff directly in his arms because, you know, he can't. It would interfere with his ability to be an athlete, just like it does these bodybuilders. A lot of them, they do partials for a reason. It's not because it creates more muscle growth. It's because they can't. It's too damn painful because of all the scar tissue and collagen and swelling and everything from all the stuff they're injecting into their arms and stuff. It affects their range of motion. It affects their ability to train. So, you know, you see that difference and you see someone like that. The guy has well over 300 pounds of lean mass. All right, that is monstrous. What his fat-free mass index is, what, like 37, something like that? So I'm going to go plug it into a calculator. Come back, figure out his weight. It's 6'8", 22% body fat. The guy's got like a 37 fat-free mass index. You know, so we come back and talk about how big that is in terms of proportion to height. Right? Diet him down. The guy's fat-free mass index would be in excess of 30. Even if he dieted down to 10% body fat and lost a little bit of muscle, the guy's fat-free mass index would be well in excess of 30. So he's not just big because of his height. He's big for his height. Right? That is an enormous amount of muscle, even per inch of height that the guy carries. You're still talking, go compare that to, again, some of these pro bodybuilders. Plug their numbers in, plug their fat-free mass index in so that you could scale it relative to their overall height and look how much muscle they're holding on their frame. The dude is monstrous even from that perspective. And the only reason people don't think he's probably bigger than he really appears to be to them from looking at the camera is the body fat, because at 22% body fat, he's not going to look as ripped as, say, a bodybuilder, but he is bigger. He is way bigger, and not just because it's bigger frame. He's bigger per unit of frame also. That's monstrous. It's absolutely monstrous. But it was interesting, too, and again, makes me again get concerned for the guy's health. The fact that he gained 11 pounds of muscle in the last year between his scans. All right, that's crazy. That's crazy. People need to understand what 11 pounds of muscle. People outside of their first year of lifting or outside of their first steroid cycle very rarely gain more than 10 pounds of muscle in a year. It's pretty rare. Pretty rare. So you got to wonder what he's doing. There's obviously more than the training. So again, that's where I get concerned. You see 11 pounds muscle. Now, granted, a guy that big, that is not as proportionate. But someone who's already really advanced lifter, an elite athlete, putting on 11 pounds of muscle in 1 year. Again, that's insane. That's insane. And I'm sure his training is obviously contributing tremendously. It's not just some drugs involved. There would have to be drugs involved. There have to be. And probably a lot of them at that point to do it. But obviously the training and all the volume of training is probably helping. That's what I tell guys also. You look at a lot of the GPP work, a lot of these guys do just that conditioning, strength-based conditioning. That has an enormous hypertrophic effect. It really does. It does. That contributes to your muscle size. Right? For the same reason that people who are doing these high rep movements, really high rep isolation type, because there is no such thing as isolation. That's a made-up word. They're getting some size from it. Well, if you're doing really high volumes like that of big movements using your whole body, wouldn't that make you bigger too? Yeah, of course it will. Of course it will. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. The only thing I wish I had seen different, I do wish we had been able to see his visceral fat in there. That would have been a nice bonus. But, I really hope the guy stays healthy. I am concerned for his health, it being over 400 pounds at 6'8", probably the drugs and stuff involved. I am concerned for the guy's health, especially when he strikes me as such a genuinely nice, warm person. I'd hate to see someone like that die young. Even though people say, well, he's doing it for his sport. It's like, yeah, but still, man. I don't want to see that happen. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.